My name's Holly Chanel,
I'm Melanie Lauren.
and this is Dipped with Sweet and
It
Hot.
is. Welcome to the podcast. Welcome
Yes.
to the podcast. And if this is your first time listening to us,
Shame on you.
well,
Shame.
let's be nice. Let's be nice right out the gate.
Oh, I came out.
Don't
I
we
came
can't
out too hot. I knocked the mic
yeah,
down. I was too
let's
hot.
not do that just yet.
Okay. Okay.
I what I was going to say was I'm sorry that you've missed so much greatness.
Oh, that's better.
And it is available for you to go back and listen to. Specifically, if you're like, what is that? What does that title mean? This was
Mm,
sweet and hot.
yeah.
You should go back to the intro episode, and we explain that very well. And then you can just catch up. But you're here now. And that is the important thing, is it not? So, Holly, say something nice to welcome them.
Welcome. And we love that you're here. We love that for you. We love that for us.
Yes. And we love Black love
And we love Black love, but
because
my
that's what we're
statement
talking
still
about.
stands. If you just now tuning in, you need to get with the program. But no, thank y'all. Welcome. And I'm so glad that we came back. We have been having some awesome guests
We
on the show.
have. Yeah.
And our last episode, we were talking about the Black love for our community.
Mm-hmm.
And we always say Black people are not a monolith, right? There's different identities, different intersections, different things. And so we really heard what a Black man is doing for his community and how he elevates his community, and speaking to your cousin Nate. And so
Yes.
I thought it would be a great idea to bring on a couple guests that could talk about their love of community from a different perspective this
Okay.
episode.
Because we got a lot of different kinds of Black communal love.
Communal love, exactly. And you know what? I think, and people know this about me and in my auntie life, I believe in the village. And so when we understand how those communities function and then bring them all together
Mm-hmm.
to serve the purpose, that's what creates the village.
Okay.
That's how we as a people, I believe, have been able to maintain and sustain despite
the things stacked against us.
Exactly, 100%. So before we get all deep into that, though, we have to talk about what's sweet,
We have to do
what's hot,
You guys know like how we like to start the show.
like we always do with this time. Old Kanye, old Kanye.
Okay. All right, so I'll take sweet.
Okay.
Oh, I had a good time this past weekend.
Did you?
I did.
Were you outside?
I was outside.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
This past weekend. So guess who at his big age is coming out with a new album?
Oh, girl.
LL Cool J, girl.
Ladies love cool.
Ladies love Cool
AKA
J.
James Todd
is coming out with a new, and I only say big age, not as shade. Let me clarify that.
Okay.
Not as shade. He freely said that he is 56 years old, and I point that out because who has that type of longevity in the rap game?
Fair.
He has been able to stick around and sound great still. He said, okay,
wait. Nobody cares how he sounds, Melanie.
Okay. Fair enough. We care about how he looks. Let me tell you this. What I started to say was I got a chance to be at an event with LL Cool J this weekend. Okay.
So you did see the man himself.
I did see the man himself. He looks just as good as he sounds.
Amen and Ashe.
He still looks just as good as he still sounds.
Mm-hmm,
Let's say it like that, first of all. But he's coming out with the new album. And what he said at the event was that he came out with his first hit, or maybe his very first song was 1984.
That tracks.
1984.
In my room. Sometimes I stay at the wall and in the back. I'm sorry.
She's a fan. So anyway, I was at this event because he was having a private listening party. He's going
to you exclusive.
I mean, I was this weekend.
Okay,
I can't argue with you. Okay. He was there. It was a small gathering of people, and where he played all the new music for us that's about to come out. So we did a little listening party. There was a moderated conversation where he talked about the inspiration behind each song, and then he would play the song.
Mm-hmm.
But he wouldn't just play the song. Like, it actually felt like a concert at times. Because as the track was playing, like, he had a handheld mic. So he got up and he was like performing the songs along to the track, knows all the words.
Really? So he actually wrote this?
Yeah, like, this man is in it, and you can just watch him. I was just watching him, seeing someone genuinely enjoy what they're doing.
Oh, that's dope.
He got some good ones on this one.
Wait a minute. He got some bangers?
He got some bangers on this album.
Really?
Yes, he does. And he also, I really admire, he was talking about how he was committed to collaborating with new artists. So he's like putting some people on. There's one track in particular that I'm thinking of that we listened to, and he was telling us about there's like 3 artists that get a verse on this track.
I love this for us, for the culture.
And he was explaining where they came from and how he was just like, I'm about that. And so I wanted to give them an opportunity. And he has other collabs. He's got something on there with Busta. He got something on there with Nas. He's got something on there with Eminem. There's one song in particular, the moderator was like, we got to run that back, and we listened to the whole song a second time. But besides that, it was really great company. I went with a friend of mine. We just had a good time. And I was as close as you are to me. Let's say push you back maybe 20 feet. That's where I was.
Did he let you feel his muscles after?
He didn't, but I know the definition in this man's arm.
It's stupid.
It's ridiculous.
I want a hug from LL.
He was like moving as he was performing to the music. And I leaned over to my friend at one point and I was like, look at his arm. Look at the depth. It's like muscles I feel like it's extra muscles in his arm that we don't normally have because everybody else's arm don't look like that. Anyway,
I want a hug.
Shout out. I want a hug too. I didn't get a chance to get a picture, but that's okay. I had a great time. Shout out to my friend. You know who you are. That I got the opportunity to go through this.
That brings up other questions. You know who you are.
But we don't say names.
Oh, fair. We don't say names on podcasts. We don't say names on podcasts.
And so we're not going to do that.
Fair.
But I had a great time. Thank you for taking me with you, friend. And it was just real sweet. It was so cool to be in that space and to hear that. So I'm looking forward to the album coming out. And shout out to him. Round of applause for LL Cool J for this new body of work that's getting ready to come out.
Listen, I am excited about this because if you say it's good, I'm going to believe you.
Yeah.
I'm going to believe you. And see, you know what? That actually usurps the hot that I had ready because now I'm pissed off. Now I'm real hot.
About what's hot?
Because I don't even remember when this was. This had to have been like 2-3 years ago in August. I went to Kanye West's listening party at Soldier Field where
I think I remember you telling me.
Hear you talk about this LL listening party experience, just rehashed the paramount level of pistivity.
I knew the word pistivity was coming.
That I experienced at that listening party. Because first, I will say the only good thing about it was that I didn't pay for the ticket.
Okay.
But he was selling tickets for like $80 some odd, and it wasn't a concert, which is fair. But he had reconstructed his house that he grew up in South Shore in Chicago and put it in the middle of Soldier Field. This is when there was all of this hullabaloo about Kim Kardashian and him getting divorced or married or what they were doing. We didn't even know if Kanye was there. We didn't see his face.
You never saw him?
He had a mask, a full face mask on. And there was a lot of pyrotechnics and fire. They hired let me tell you something. This man hired 200 extras to run around Soldier Field in August in long sleeve black shirts and black pants for no other reason than aesthetic. I'm not lying to you, somebody passed out at this event. And then on top of all of that, when I got back to my car, I had a parking ticket. And you know how I feel about giving the city of Chicago free money, girl. Baby, I haven't bought anything associated. Yeezy who? What? I don't know. Don't you ever try to sell me on something, Kanye. That was the most colossal waste of time I had ever experienced in my life. And you just rehashed that for me. So
I did not mean she's triggered, you guys. I was just sharing my good time. I didn't know that I was going to dig up all of that for you. So I'm sorry, friend.
It's okay. It's okay. I appreciate it.
I'm sorry but I would have been, my levels of pistivity would have been high too, especially about the parking ticket. Come on. Like you didn't have a good time and then now you owe money? Come on.
And Kim Kardashian showed up.
Okay.
And she walked.
So you saw her, but you didn't see Kanye.
And I was not there.
Yeah,
I have not seen a single soul solitary episode of Keeping Up with, around, or about Kardashian.
Right.
The only one I can visibly recognize is Kim, just because she won't go away. But oh my word. But anyway, I'm gonna digress.
Part of being a community is letting people get things off their chest.
Yeah.
So she has been able to sufficiently vent about that since I triggered her. I take responsibility for that, you guys. So I've given her the space to work through that.
Thank you.
Yes, that's what community is about.
It
That
is.
is one type of community.
It is.
Listening,
And
being
this
emotionally supportive.
100%,
Mm-hmm.
which is an excellent segue into introducing our beautiful and esteemed guests, because these two women have, I don't know how they do it, and we're going to find out, because this is mostly an episode for me to figure out what the secret sauce is.
Okay. And then you as well,
Right.
dipped listeners.
Dipped listeners. It's amazing to see how they have created community and how they foster it and maintain safe space. Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. So at this time, I would like to welcome Angela Barnes and Renauda Riddle to Dipped with Sweet and Hot. Hello.
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 How are you? How are you?
Doing great. Thank you so much for having us.
All righty. So, Angela, if you could talk a little bit, just because we currently don't have a visual portion, but Angela, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you come from, your origin story?
Yeah, of course. I am a South Sider. I am born and raised on the South Side of Chicago. Holly is dancing a little bit about that. Let's see what else. I don't know. St. Ignatius grad. I'm a lawyer here in the city, and now a proud bar owner with my wonderful business partner, wonderful and beautiful business partner, Renauda.
She's talking about you.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if this is a serious setup or just she truly means it. I don't.
It's just a setup, not a serious one, just a setup.
Just set up.
And Renauda, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So Renauda Riddle, I am a sales tax revenue auditor for the state of Illinois. Proud business owner of Nobody's Darling. And I think Angela is the same way, but she doesn't want to admit it. We wear so many different hats. We're on boards. We have other businesses outside of Nobody's Darling. Probably a lot of people don't know that. And we still have careers doing 9-to-5s. So we do a lot of community building outside of Nobody's Darling. And somehow we pull it off and we are able to be somehow active in our day-to-day lives and be seen and all that good stuff and enjoy. I'm from Huntsville, Alabama as well.
You're from Alabama? Which part?
Yes, Huntsville.
I only asked because I am originally from Memphis, Tennessee. So
nice.
From Southern roots myself.
I am actually going to start a little bit backwards because you both started talking about the bar. So in full disclosure to our Dipped with Sweet and Hot audience, I am the general manager of Nobody's Darling, which is the best way I can describe it is that it is an inclusive space for everyone, owned by two Black queer women. And it is a beautiful space to work in. It's a beautiful space to be a part of. One of the things that I love most is that our community, our guests, our patrons, even our neighbors in the bar, because it's located on the north side of Chicago, have really truly embraced the community aspect of Nobody's Darling. So can you both just talk about where your head was at and what went into cultivating this space when you two got together and just said, hey, we're going to open a bar?
Yeah, I'll start first with that. I know my experience while on boards and also building community, I was leading a women's action committee at the Center on Halstead. And that's actually how I met Angela. So I think basically how we build community was basically put in this bar. So I would do pop-ups and build community that way by doing cocktail events, brunch events. During the pandemic, we kind of shifted and we weren't really doing a lot of those pop-ups. And Angela and I were golfing a lot. So I think one day I asked Angela, what do you think about opening a bar? Angela, in the beginning, she kind of looked at me and was like, I don't know, Renauda. It sounds like a good thing in theory, but, I don't know. But I'll think about it. And so, right away, I told her, worst case scenario, best case scenario. And, she said, okay, I'll think about it and we'll come back together and see what may be possible. But, my worst case scenario was basically we'll have a place where we can bring our friends and have the cocktails, and I'll do one event a month. So this is what the amazing thing that we have created started from. It started from a small thing that grew into this thing that we were very intentional about. Knew, hey, worst case scenario, we'll have a place where we can, I can do an event and we can just have our friends.
So Angela, I'm imagining this conversation during this socially distant activity of golfing, which I think is a great idea that's a good thing to do during the pandemic, right?
Safe.
So I'm picturing your face when like y'all at hole 6 and you're like, let's open a bar, and Angela's like, what? Like, when you said, let me think about it, what were you thinking about? And what were the considerations that went into you saying yes?
I wasn't really thinking about it. I mean, I was kind of like, yeah, it's not a good idea. Mainly because my vision at that juncture wasn't there, right? It wasn't at a community. I mean, it was more like that might not be the best use of funds. Open a bar, no, of a pandemic. The reason though we kept talking about it was because there was a need to have a space for certainly for queer women of color to come together. I think Renauda had been incredibly successful in having these events. She had partners before that, they would, I think, curate these, certainly with the center. And then, Renauda had a private company. And they were just very nice events, and they were always well attended. And so, you kind of understand that as bars were closing, lesbian bars were closing, these spaces were becoming quite, they were just becoming scarce. So it just so happened that as the pandemic was sort of, winding down, I suppose, this space became available. And so we said, let's do it. In my mind, what I was thinking was I had had so many experiences of being in spaces that weren't welcoming.
Mm-hmm.
And I love cocktails. I love going out. I just wanted to make sure that whatever we did was someplace that I know I wanted to feel comfortable.
Absolutely.
And in doing that, Renauda and I knew that it's got to be someplace where when you order a cocktail, you want it to be a darn good cocktail, right? You don't want to get something where you're like, excuse me, is there alcohol in this? Did you? You want it to be tasty, memorable. Renauda likes to say addictive. Okay, I'll go with that. You want the place to just really feel comfortable, inviting. You want to stay there. I mean, we had all of these separately ideas, but they really came together. Like we knew what we want.
Okay.
Some of it we had to express to each other, but some of it we just knew.
Gotcha.
And so that all came together. So while I was saying while we're golfing, I'll think about it. I mean, it just sort of outside of that, it aligned. The stars aligned, and it happened.
I'm going to ask 2 clarifying questions. One for the benefit of our audience. I happen to be, since I have some Chicago roots, I happen to know what the center is.
Yes.
But I've heard you guys talk about the center. So can one of you guys just briefly explain like what that is for our listening audience? And then the second question that I'm going to ask, piggybacking on what you're describing, Angela, as your vision for the space that you're creating and wanting to feel safe and comfortable. If you're comfortable and if you wouldn't mind, what did feeling uncomfortable in a space look like for you? Like, what were some examples of what you had faced in other existing establishments that you wanted to differentiate your bar experience?
Well, Renauda, did you want to take the center on Halstead?
So the Center on Halstead is an LGBTQIA community center in Boys Town, also known as North Halstead as well. And they provide services for seniors, for youth. They have mental health services. So they provide just an array of services for the community as a whole. They have a gym They have a rooftop. They have a theater. Definitely go check out Center Hostel. It has so many great services. And it's not only just for, the queer community, it's for everyone. Because they also have a nursing playroom or whatever for everyone who has a kid. And I think everyone has a kid on all sides. So yeah, Center Halstead definitely is an amazing community center in Boys Town.
Partnering with when you had these pop-up events that you were talking about before you two decided to establish the bar?
Yeah, so I was leading the Women's Action Committee, and we were tasked with nurturing, cultivating women donors. And yeah, so that's what it was tasked with doing. So I would do these pop-up events, and someone asked, you do these events and they're amazing. You should do this on your own. And so that's what started me creating a small company and doing these events all over the city.
Thank you for explaining that.
You're welcome.
Angela, you were going to talk about some of your negative experiences, or just, I guess, paint the picture for us as an audience of what being in bar spaces where you did not feel comfortable or welcomed felt like for you.
Yeah, I guess it was twofold. It's challenging, I think, to be a woman of color, a lot of times in gay male spaces. While, if in a group, sometimes it's okay, right? You go in, you want to have a drink, but you find that as you're standing there trying to order, you're ignored. I mean, it can take a long time to get a drink. You finally get one, and hopefully, if you're a regular at a particular bar, you've developed some allies. Maybe you feel somewhat comfortable being in the space, but a lot of times you'll encounter a lot of men who they don't want you in their space. They will be quite vocal about not wanting you in their space, and so that becomes quite challenging. And it's not as safe either. I think that some people kind of feel like, well, it's a gay male space and you're a woman, you should feel safe. There's a lot of drug use. There's a lot of roofies, that go into drinks. You still have to be very careful of your drinks. It really isn't, when I think women, especially queer women, sort of retreat to their own bars or their own spaces. And there are a lot of, people who don't drink or anything like that, but they just want their own space. A lot of it really has to do with wanting to be safe, wanting to, just feel that they're around people who will see them and acknowledge them. And I think that that's what, Renauda and I, we were very careful to not want to label our bar a lesbian bar. It certainly wasn't because we don't like lesbians. It was because we wanted to define it as a women-centered cocktail bar. We said to ourselves, if we center women, that means that we are welcoming to all women. We want people to respect women, but we want to welcome everyone. And as long as you can be welcoming to women and you can respect, and be, the safety of the space, that's really going to set the tone for the culture. And I think that, and certainly I think Hollee has seen that it's working.
It is. I say all the time, because I think the Dip with Sweet and Hot audience knows that I identify as a cisgender heterosexual woman. And I get the question all the time, like, how is it working in the lesbian bar? And I'm like, actually, it's beautiful and it's amazing. And I protect that space with everything I have, because I feel that that is the experience I should have had as a young woman coming up in the club and lounge scene, just trying to live out here, instead of dancing with gentlemen who pull their penises out while I'm not looking, or, who grope you and won't let you go and won't take no for an answer. I can attest, and this is probably the most unbelievable and incredible thing that I have seen happen time and again at Nobody's Darling. If someone comes into our space and is not of the correct mindset and is presenting themselves as not being an ally and a steward of the space, our patrons 98% of the time will get them in order before the staff even has a chance to.
Okay.
So
they fight for that as well.
So they fight for that as well. And you don't see that in a lot of places, especially where alcohol is involved.
Right.
Especially when it's later in the evening and
Mhm.
people are just looking to unwind. And everyone's like, yeah, you can unwind, but you're going to do that respectfully and you're going to do that inclusively. The other amazing thing that you don't see in bars a lot is philanthropy. And I want to talk to Angela and Renauda about their philanthropy because at every turn, and Renauda touched on, you know, being part of the Women's Action Committee at the Center on Halsted to cultivate wider donors and a wider donorship base. So I'm going to toss this to Renauda and let Angela pick up. When you were creating Nobody's Darling, why was philanthropy one of the pillars on which you based the bar?
I know for Angela and I, we both sit on boards. We're always in the mind of giving back.
And if you would like to share the other boards that you sit on, you are more than welcome to.
So I was sitting on 3 boards, and now I just sit on 1 board, which is Chicago Coalition for the Homeless. So I sat on Center on Hosted's board, Legacy Projects board, while I was opening up the bar, and I said something had to give. So I'm only on 1 board. But going back to your question, it's so important for us to give back. It's in our DNA, right? I know for me, for my mom, she always taught me is more joy in giving than in receiving. So if you're with me, we go out, I'm probably going to be first person to like grab the check, unless I'm with Angela. I always let Angela pay.
Oh, that's cool.
It is.
But no, when I did my pop-ups too, though, it was always a piece of the nonprofit component of giving back, just something that we love to do.
So how then is that a part? So you said, Hollee, you were explaining that was a part of your mission and that was important to you as you established the bar. So I'm curious what that looks like for Nobody's Darling and how philanthropy is a part of your operation. And I'm also curious, and this is backtracking just a little bit as I try to picture. I mean, I've been to Nobody's Darling, but for those who have not been there, what are some of the ways that you have been able to implement safety in this space? We were talking about like the importance of safety and everyone feeling safe. And I'm just wondering how you accomplish that, or how your staff, or how is that accomplished in the space? I guess that's 2 questions.
I give them the evil eye, Melanie.
Well, it can be quite intimidating. I'll give you that.
Well, it's kind of funny. We have a safety team, so we do have 2 individuals who are at our door, and of course, checking IDs, and they're also on the lookout to diffuse situations. One of which is a very intimidating looking young man who is incredibly tall and muscular. He is my nephew. He's the sweetest guy in the world, but I believe a deterrent. So he's there.
Right, swell up. He'll swell up.
But one of the things that I was just so proud of is, our bartenders, and I remember the first time seeing it, one of our male bartenders, there was a young woman who got up and left her drink at the bar, went to the restroom. Now I had to talk to the bartender about the way he said it, but he puts a napkin on her drink. And she comes back out and he says, "Don't you ever leave your drink unattended without telling somebody that you are leaving." It was so funny. And I was like, "Thank you for saying that to her. That was great. Thank you. Next time, please just say it in a nicer way."
That's absolutely true. I can definitely see that happening.
But they look out, you know what I mean, for the patrons. And, we definitely, we reiterate that. Like, we make sure that people are looking out for each other. It's not somebody's been inadvertently overserved. They're not kicked out of the bar. Like, get home any way you know how. We make sure that they safely get home.
We've actually had a bartender that got in an Uber to make sure that a patron got home safely.
Got in the Uber with the patron?
Got in the Uber with the patron
wow.
and made sure that they got home safely.
Definitely above and beyond.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then you were talking about the philanthropy piece as well. So tell us a little bit about that.
Actually, so what I wanted to get to with Angela is one of the ways that we do give back on a regular basis is we have a monthly BIPOC trivia night.
Yes.
Okay. Every trivia night, we partner with a nonprofit organization. This last trivia, one of the questions was actually about Angela.
Oh, no. What?
It was about a giving fund that she and some friends had started some time ago. In full disclosure, I've known Angela like more than half of my life. So can you talk about what was it called? She 100?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you talk about like how that came to fruition and the
Sure.
impact you all had there?
Yeah, it just as Renauda is saying, I think one of the kind of really neat things about our community, I think the LGBTQ community and just kind of candidly about the women's community. I think we're always just kind of looking around and we see the need, right? And so a number of years ago, one of my friends, Brooke Skinner Ricketts, and I were sitting on a board, and it was the GLAD Leadership Council. There were a lot of gay white men on the board, and the two of us, we were kind of like, well, just the two of us. So, and we felt really kind of like the outsiders. A lot of the events were organized around men. We were a little bit tired of that. And we knew that there were a lot of women focused organizations that needed to have funds just kind of directed towards them. And so we started a philanthropic group of women. And we would get together and we would sort of collect funds, and then we would have, pitches, and we would give the money out. And so that's kind of how that started. And, we ran that for a number of years, and it was an amazing group that we met so many people throughout Chicago.
That's amazing. And what kind of impact did you have?
I mean, I would say all told, we probably gave away about $100,000. Yeah. And then just kind of disbanded because, gosh, we all have full-time jobs and lives, but then, it was on to the next adventure. And I think that's kind of the point of these things. Like, we just kind of move on to something else. But again, continuing to give. And, within our community. That's what's really neat about it. And Renauda will kind of tell you, as we start at the bar, a lot of people will contact her or me or through info at Nobody's Darling Bar and just say,
I said, come on with the plug, info at Nobody's
I
Darling.
know, right? And say, can we do this at your bar? Can we? And I think in our first or, second year, at some point I said, what is it that the thing that we typically donate?
The 101 mixology class that we do. So we give a gift certificate to nonprofits. They'll put it in either a raffle, silent auction, and it always is a big thing for them. They say, they raise so much money off of this gift certificate. I think a lot of people knew when we first opened, knew us based upon having the James Beard nomination and being a finalist. So it just gave that notoriety to us. And once, that happened, and then we started getting the top 5 bars or 10 bars in the city, I think we just got a different lens on us. So every time we give the certificate is like coveted thing. So they raise a lot of money off of it.
Okay, talk to me about James Beard, because I don't even know how this happened, where it happened. I just know that it was a beautiful thing. And so for those who don't know, James Beard is a culinary and an annual culinary. It's like the Oscars for bars and restaurants, essentially. And it's based in Chicago. It's a huge ordeal. And within your first year, you were nominated and a finalist.
Best bar program.
Best bar program.
Wow, congratulations.
That's amazing. So beyond that nomination, what has surprised you most? Because I know that there was a lot of intention that went into developing and maintaining this, but what are some of the unexpected things that you didn't anticipate, like the happy accidents?
Yeah, I think the happy accidents are when, Angela and I are at the bar and someone just comes up to us and says, excuse me, I don't want to bother you guys, but I just want to thank you for creating this wonderful space. That always makes me tear up. It makes me do all the things because you don't know what kind of effect you can have on people's lives by creating a space that you said you're going to put intention behind it. And then when it actually creates itself into this beautiful thing and actually touches someone and impacts someone's life is something that I feel like I'm good for the rest of my life by creating this space. I am.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask a question about impact. And like specifically when you guys encounter people who are Black and who are queer. And so I'm curious about what you have seen, what you have experienced, what you have heard is the reception and the reaction from members of the Black community to this space and this place.
So I have a group of Black men, straight Black men friends. And so I think when they first found out I was opening a bar, they just always wanted to be supportive or whatever. But when they came and saw the space and they were just like, oh man, this is cool. Like no one's hitting on me. I'm just having a good time. This is awesome. And you're just like, yeah, dude. We're creating a space that everyone feels good about being here. And that's what we definitely try to do. And when people feel seen, that makes us feel even better and being able to just come as their whole self. And that's what I feel like queer people of color can do in our space that they usually are not able to do in other spaces that are supposedly supposed to be for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there are just so many people, especially young people. We have a young woman who traveled, she's been there since the beginning, travels from Indiana and is so dedicated and just feels so comfortable. And there's so many other people, young, Black, queer people who would say thank you each and every time. And like Renauda says, each time they say it, it's almost like, no, thank you. Like, thank you for supporting us. But they feel like we open this space for them. They're like, but for you, we wouldn't have a place to go. It means so much to us that we could do this. And I agree with Renauda. It's one of the most important things that I've ever done.
Feels okay. And I'm hesitating on asking this question, understanding that it's rooted in Alice Walker's poem. Why specifically call it Nobody's Darling?
It's one of my favorite poems. I read it. It said, I think everything that, once Renauda and I were kind of on our little vision board, right? And we were saying, this is what this is supposed to be. And I sent this to Renauda and I was like, hear me out. This is what I think we ought to call it. And she read it. We didn't look back. This was the name.
It was the name. It was kismet, as they say.
Right.
That is amazing.
So I know the poem is like posted on the wall.
Yes.
In the space.
Yes.
And so for those who aren't familiar with the poem, can you just sort of summarize a little bit of what it's about?
Angela?
Yeah. So the poem is Be Nobody's Darling by Alice Walker. I think that it really just says, walk your own path, make your own way. Do not think about what others have to say and whatever they have to say. Take it, make it a shawl, make it into a shield, right? And carry it to defend against, all the stones that may be thrown at you. Be an outcast.
Wow. I think that's so, I hate to say it because it sounds cliche and like a play on words to say that's so poetic.
It is.
But when you describe it like that, I think about the stones that get thrown at you as a Black person. I think about the stones that get thrown at you as a woman. I hear about the stones that get thrown at people who are queer. And so to have all of those, the intersection of all of those things happening, what a fitting title.
It's just beautiful. I'm going to tell you something. It's one of the hardest jobs I've ever had. And I'm not going to lie to you. It is also the most rewarding. Okay. It is next to teaching ballet and corrupting another generation of youth. It is the most rewarding job I've ever had. And it is my honor and pleasure to be a part of that community. So, yeah.
I salute you, too. We're talking about Black love. We're talking about community. Obviously, starting Nobody's Darling was a continuation for each of you of the Black love for your community that you were already showing, that you were already demonstrating in the other spaces where you were. And then you came together and you created this place where all people, but specifically women, specifically queer people, specifically people who are of color, could be safe and enjoy themselves. And that labor of love continues, right?
Absolutely.
As the bar continues to be what it is for the members of the community.
Which leads me to my final question. I know about 2 years after you opened, you expanded and almost doubled your footprint. in the space. So, it's almost like nobody is a behemoth on its own, right? So what's next for Nobody's Darling and the both of you individually and as a business partnership? Come on, Renauda.
These faces say,
No, I mean,
Come on, Renauda.
of
They
course, we
got
want the
fired.
South Side location.
Yeah,
I want it now.
You want it to-
Definitely. We get people from the South Side, the West Side, so the South suburbs that come all the way to Andersonville, and I feel so bad. So it's something that we definitely want to do as soon as possible. We're working on it right now, and of course, we want to go to other cities. So we're slowly going to be, intentional about our growth, and not grow too fast. But that's something that is our next plans.
Nobody's Darling coming to a city near you.
Right, you heard it here.
And you, Angela, dream, aspiration?
It's okay. She wants to say how great I am. And, I've been the best business partner she's ever had. So.
No, it's everything that Renauda said is true. We do believe that what we managed to create, which we're so thankful and we're so blessed, is something that people have come from other cities, from other countries, and said, gosh, we wish this was in our city. Renauda and I are very intentional about expanding. We believe that our brand and the magic that we brought to Chicago, we can bring to other cities. So we're going to do that. We have a plan.
Oh, we have a plan.
You guys heard it here.
I'm rubbing my hands together, friends.
Well, congratulations to you both on your personal and collective success. And thank you for showing your love in the way that you specifically show your love to the communities that intersect in you, that you demonstrate, that you represent.
I've said this time and again personally, but it has been my pleasure and my honor to know both of you. It is my pleasure and my honor to work for and with you. And I am very, very excited about the fruit that the examples you set will bear. You don't find that often. Because, and I can say personally, these are two women of integrity, best of intentions. You never have to guess why they are doing a thing because the answer is always for the greater good.
We just talked about Am I My Brother's Keeper?
Am I My Brother's Keeper?
So my brother and my sister.
And these two women, for them, the answer is yes. Mm-hmm. I am my sister, my brother, and every gender in between.
That's right.
Keeper. Because what I like about it is I always ask the question, am I the only one living by the golden rule? Do unto others as you would want to have done to you. And they keep that alive. And they set a great example. So thank you both.
Yeah, shout out to you. Shout out to Nobody's Darling.
Where can the folks find Nobody's Darling?
For those of you who are in Chicago, many of you are not.
Or around the world, because guess what? We had two folks from Austria in the bar on Sunday.
Okay.
Wow.
So where can the folks find you?
So on Instagram and Facebook, Nobody's Darling Bar, and then www.nobodysdarlingbar.com. You can find us there. Make sure you get on our website, subscribe, and like our pages.
Sign up for the contact list.
Yes, please.
We do have some great events at the bar. There's a wealth of things that happen. We have a live podcast happening soon. So yeah, that's not mine, but we're working on it. We're working on it.
And
all right.
Thank you for having us. This has been fun. We appreciate it.
Yes, I appreciate your time. We appreciate your time. Thank you for sharing your stories. And you just never know. Somebody listening might be inspired to do something for their community as a result of listening to your stories and what you're doing. So, yes, round of applause. Round of applause. Round of applause.
All right, Renauda, Angela, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you. Super producer Lewis, as always, we love you.
Yeah, Lou.
And with all that said, my name is Hollee Chanel.
I'm Melanie Lauren, and this is Dip Between Hot.
Take care, y'all.